Okay, so here we're going to look at the notes for lesson 0-3, evaluating algebraic expressions. So first we're going to start and we're going to break apart that title right there. We're going to break apart each one of those words. So evaluating. What does it mean to evaluate something? What's it mean to evaluate something? Well, when you're talking math, evaluate simply means that you are simplifying. You are simplifying as much as possible. You're doing as much math as possible. Evaluate just means to take the expression and see if you can try and get it down to one single number. Simplify as much as possible, doing as much math as you possibly can. Algebraic, on the other hand, when we're talking about the word algebraic or algebra, algebra just refers to using letters to represent unknown numbers. Or in our case, actually, we're going to know the numbers. We're just going to have to substitute them in or fill them in. And finally, the last part of our title here, expressions. What is an expression? What makes an expression maybe different from an equation? So an expression is simply just a number sentence. The abbreviated number with the little hashtag is a number sentence with no equal sign. It does not have an equal sign. If it has an equal sign, that makes it an equation, whereas without the equal sign, it's just an expression. Okay, so what we're doing here is we are going to be filling in the given number for the variable. And to do that, we're going to replace every x. Do we always have to use x? Can there be other variables other than x, or is x the only one we can use? X is not the only variable we can use. And you might see in our first example right here, I'm actually using k instead of x. When I say x here in this little bullet point, I just mean whatever variable you're using, the variable. So your first step is going to be replacing every x or every variable with an empty set of parentheses, just like I have right there. And then finally, after you've done that, you just need to follow the order of operations. And if you need a review of that, go back to our notes from 0-2. That's that GEMS acronym, or PEMDAS, you might remember from last year. We're doing GEMS this year, though. All right, so let's give that a try. So here's this first example, one I'm looking at. So the first thing I'm going to start with is I'm going to rewrite this expression, and everywhere I see a variable, I'm going to put in some parentheses. So instead of k, I'm putting empty parentheses. I'm writing those parentheses that are already there.
Day automation vehicle moved out of the bus loop, please. Day automation.
Getting interrupted here. Hold on a sec. Okay. So my first k I replaced with parentheses. This parenthesis that I have written right here is the parenthesis that's in that problem. I'm going to put another one in for my k plus 2, close that parenthesis, squared, minus 36, fraction, and parentheses for my k there. So once I've filled in those empty parentheses, I can now go back and I can fill in what they told me k to be. And here in the problem, they're telling me that k is equal to 3 in this situation. So everywhere I've got an empty parenthesis, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to fill in the number 3, because that's what they're telling me k is. Now all you need to do is follow your order of operations from here. So gems, G, groupings. I do have numbers that are grouped together here. Looking at my first parentheses here, there's nothing in this parenthesis with the 3 to do, so that's not considered a grouping. That's considered what operation do parentheses show us? Multiplication. But I do right here have stuff in this grouping to do. So let's take a look at that. 3 plus 2. And it's okay that that 3 is in parentheses there. I see this plus sign right here, and that tells me that I'm adding that 3 plus 2. So 3 plus 2 is 5. I'm keeping it in parentheses and carrying down that squared, carrying down the times 3 on the outside, and this minus 36 divided by 3. Notice how from this, my first step to my second step, I did drop the parentheses around that 3 underneath my fraction here, and that's okay because there's nothing down there with that 3, so those parentheses can get dropped. All right, so there's nothing else that's being grouped together, so I can move on to any exponents I have. And I do have exponents. I've got a 5 squared right there. So I'm going to carry down that times 3. 5 squared is 25 minus 36 divided by 3. Okay, exponents have been taken care of. Now I'm going to move on to any multiplication or division. So now this is a great example of a case where I have both multiplication and division going on. I've got 3 times 25 right here, but then I've also got this 36 being divided by 3, because remember, a fraction bar just means division. So I'm not doing the multiplication first because multiplication always comes before division, because that's not the case. Here, I'm doing the multiplication first because that's what comes first in order from left to right. So I'm starting off and I'm going to do that 3 times 25, which gives me 75. And I'm just going to carry down the rest of that. So now I'm still not done with that m in gems, because that m is multiplication and division, and I still have some division left to do. So 36 divided by 3 is what I need to look at next. Maybe you need to take this off to the side and do the little house. So 36 divided by 3. 1, 12. So 75 minus 12. And 75 minus 12, maybe you need to also set that up on the side. That's quite all right. If you want to be checking in a calculator, that's fine too. 5 minus 2 is 3, 7 minus 1 is 6. So example 1 gives us an answer of 63. Notice we evaluated, we simplified that expression all the way down to one single number. And we did that using what they gave us for the variable, that k equals 3. So for your homework, you're doing the same kind of process. Replace every x or every variable with those parentheses and then fill in that number that they gave you. As always, email me if you have any questions.